Yo, what's going on guys? Rhys here from Stoic Pool, and in this episode of Catalyst Talk, I am interviewing Nadia Hopkins, and we talk about her role as the Catalyst Circle VCA and CA representative. We talk about the role of CAs and VCAs within Catalyst and how anyone can be a part of that part of the Catalyst funding phase where we do assessments of proposals, and we talk about the importance of this. We talk about the challenges that Catalyst face with the amount of proposals and the kind of scaling issues they're having, and then we discuss her proposal, which is a rapid funding mechanism, a rapid funding treasury, for CAs and VCAs. Let's get into it.
Oh yeah, don't worry. It looks really nice. I like the leafy vine plant. What is that?
This, here, I can tell you exactly what it is. It is a house plant. No. A mini monstera, it says. It's actually this thing.
It's a house plant. Oh, well, thank you for that. I'll send Danny down the garden center to grab one.
You know what? It just keeps going up. It's like Catalyst. It just keeps growing whatever direction
that's going in the video, by the way. That's happening. All right, guys. So I'm joined with Nadia Hopkins. Very informal start to the interview. Nadia, do you want to just introduce yourself and a little bit about your proposal and kind of why we're here?
Yeah. So thanks, Rhys, for having me. My name is Nadia Hopkins, and I am here in the capacity of being the Catalyst Circle Community Advisors Rep. And the proposal that we have on the table is one that is going to create a treasury for the veteran community advisor group in order to help us to fund different operational and research initiatives, just different things that come up over the coming 6 months, in order that our group can be a little bit more empowered to make the improvements that we need in a timely way.
Perfect, thank you. So you mentioned these CAs and VCAs, right? They're community advisors, but what role do they actually have in Catalyst? Like, what is the purpose of them?
So the community advisor role is one of the key roles that keeps the process of proposing and funding proposals going. And particularly the community advisor is helpful to proposers, but ultimately to the voters. The community advisor has the function of doing assessments of the proposals once the proposal period deadline has passed. So prior to that time, the community advisors join the ranks of helping the proposers to improve and respect the criteria of the proposals themselves. Are they impactful as it comes to the challenge that they are working to solve? Are they feasible? Is it realistic that this is going to happen and that this team can make it happen? And are they auditable? Can we hold them accountable afterwards? So it's really a key role for that period of time in the refinement and improvement of the proposals. But the greater function that the community advisor serves is to assess those proposals officially and to help the voter then understand, is this proposal going to hit the mark ultimately if it's funded? A really important thing, because we have a great number and an ever increasing number of proposals. And for a voter, there's really not a way to possibly manage all that information. So the community advisor is helping that voter come to a consensus on how they want to vote.
Yeah, that was a great explanation, because like they essentially, from my perspective, I just see the QA part on the cycle of Catalyst, and I think they do the quality assurance. They assess proposals essentially, but actually their role is a bit more in depth than that, isn't it? Yeah. And that's kind of what you're explaining. I remember in the last fund, the way that the form was filled out to actually submit a proposal was lacking in direction a little bit. And this time round, I think the Catalyst admin team really preempted 1,000 or 2,000 proposals, right? And so they've kind of laid it out slightly better to assist the CAs and the VCAs in actually getting through the amount of proposals there are, right?
It's also very helpful in Fund 8 that the proposal structure, like you're saying, is very much aligned with how it's going to be assessed. I think that's helpful in both directions. because then the community advisor can easily look at across the proposal, does this meet the criteria that I'm using to assess it? So one of the great things to understand about the community advisor role is that it's a very accessible role, even if someone is newer to the ecosystem. So it's actually a great way if someone is coming into Catalyst and trying to sort of orient themselves and find a way to get involved. A community advisor role is great. It's a couple reasons for that. One, it's very accessible. So you can join and become a community advisor by registering during the registration period, which is actually open right now. So for Fund 8, which we're in right now, it opened on Friday and it is going to continue until March 23rd. So you have a span of time there where you can just log into IdeaScale nice and easy and register. So the putting your hand up and signing up to be a community advisor, relatively simple. Second, there's a lot of great resources and tools that can help you understand what the expectations of the role are. And they're very clear because over the previous funds, we've had to refine that and refine that and refine that. So right now, you're able to have a very good understanding. And you also have examples of previous assessments that have gone really well. So you can sort of measure, okay, this is what that would sound like if I did a good job at it. And you can also see the proposals that those assessments were linked to. And that's very helpful because it's not like you're sort of trying to imagine what the proposal may have looked like. There it is, and you can really access it. And then a third thing is that a lot of our challenge categories, we as a community want to be able to speak to why these are issues, and we want to be able to think about can these people solve. So if some of the challenge categories are more maybe lend themselves more to someone who's more of a generalist, and some of the challenge categories very specific in terms of technical expertise required to implement them, specific when it comes to maybe what someone would have to know in order to be able to implement those well. So for people who have a great expertise and who come to Catalyst but may not be ready to do a proposal themselves, or may not be prepared to actually put in the proposal they're thinking about, it's a great way to be involved and maybe make connections with other people in that arena to see what's happening. So one of the great ways to start doing that is just to take a look at the assessment guide. Maybe we can get that as a link somewhere.
I'll link to that below.
Maybe we'll get it. You can get a sense of it. And there's great workshops. Catalyst School has held some great workshops that really walk you through step by step. So the ability to get on and get started is really doable. And the last thing for that maybe is that I think experience is the best teacher. So if it seems like kind of an ominous thing, like how would I even accomplish this? If you take a couple hours and prepare yourself and then just starting on them, you'll be able to sort of feel the process out.
This role is one of those things that I've always kind of said to people whenever I'm in a Twitter space, right? I always say that this is a great way to get involved in Cardano, to contribute, because a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm not technical enough to set up a stake pool, but I want to take part. And then they're like, oh yeah, I'm not an artist, so I can't really do NFTs. And then they say like, oh, I'm not technical enough to build a project. Like I can't imagine how to build a DEX or something like that. I'm not very technically savvy. But they want to. There are so many people in the ecosystem that really want to help and contribute, and that's one of the amazing things about Cardano that I've seen personally. And this is always my answer. Like there's always something that you can do to take part and to be involved. And this role, like being a CA or a VCA, is a great way to help contributing to the ecosystem. To contribute to the ecosystem. Sorry, it's late here, so my brain's no good. My wording not nice. But yeah, this is such a good way to get involved and actually be a part of this, this whole system. And it's a very open environment, and everyone I've ever met in Catalyst is super friendly, all for the ecosystem. Everyone has time to help you out as well. And I'd really recommend, if any of you guys are interested in it, get involved with being a CA. You get to
know people. So, sometimes you don't run into that person necessarily, but I remember I was so inspired by a lot of the things people were doing, and you'd see names and you become familiar with names. It's kind of like I compare it often to like walking around the neighborhood, and you see someone's name on the mailbox, and you get a sense of like, oh, that person lives here. That person, they are part of my neighborhood, part of my community. And then you meet that person later on, you have a sense of them. You sort of, you develop a little bit of a kinship through this process. Yeah. And I spent a lot of time, my first time being a community advisor, I got really deep into some of the projects. Some of the things really inspired me or made me think differently about what could be done with the technology that's coming out. Not that I was going to go out and then do that thing, but I thought, well, you know what? It was more and more inspiring because it's so easy to get deflated anymore with all the things that are going on. This was a way to really make connections with people, even not direct yet, but you have a sense of what's in people's scope to accomplish and what's in people's hearts that they want to do. It's a really powerful thing to just spend time considering what people are considering doing. And then you have this fantastic opportunity to say, hey, have you thought about this? Or you can contribute to their ideas as well through this process. And you can prevent them from pitfalls that might take them in the wrong direction. So having a lot of eyes and a lot of review on something that is being planned is really fantastic, especially at this size that we are at Catalyst right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I always find, right, that everyone has something to contribute. Now, everyone is an expert on something. And because of that, everyone has a perspective that can help someone see something in a different light. And that's one thing that I think people don't give themselves credit for. People are, oh yeah, I don't know what I can do about that. And you're like, but when you put stuff in front of them, you suddenly start seeing the wheels turning in their head and they start to get a bit excited about what someone's building. I'm like that about literally everything. Someone starts telling me about this thing. I'm like, oh my God, and you could do this. And I'm like a kid in a Disney movie, with like my eyes all wide and a massive smile. And I'm like waving my hands around like crazy. Some of the stuff that's happening in Catalyst is absolutely amazing. And it's just, it blows me away. It's crazy. It's I mean, in a good way, obviously, it's amazing. But okay, well, anyway, that's a little overview of what you get up to and what you're helping facilitate in Catalyst. But now let's talk about your proposal. So your proposal is called the CA and VCA Treasury for Rapid Funding. So do you want to kind of introduce that concept for us so we can start poking holes in it?
Yeah. So good. Then the hard questions are going to start. Yes. So so there's a challenge category right now that is for community advisor improvements. And there is 100,000 in that. And it was prompted, I think, by the real recognition that this role is so important and it requires growth and development, and it requires talent coming to it. It requires talent coming to it to help actually build and facilitate the capacity and impact of the role over time. We need to be able to look into things. There are in any forming group that is expanding, we need to be able to make the moves and the decisions that are going to help that group flourish more and more. And we need to prevent things that could potentially be disruptive to that happening. So that challenge was put in place, and there were some really interesting proposals in there. It's a lot of the CA community itself. So it's a very much a collaborative effort. But the Treasury that we have here is one that was developed and suggested by a lot of the existing CAs and VCAs who have gone through the past few funds and recognized the need for us to be able to move forward the initiatives that will serve this group without going through a long wait period of continuous proposing. Some things are really quick fixes or things that don't require very much of a budget and need to be done in order that the group can function. So from that perspective, we're going to work to create a treasury with some of these funds, not all of them, but some of them, so that we'll be able to have that opportunity. wrapped into this also is a governance framework, which is really important for the consideration and deployment of those funds so that we can evaluate whether or not what is being requested will actually address an issue that is of need, that we can come to consensus on it, and that we can deploy those funds in a auditable and recognizable way. So it's really a fun experiment in creating that framework as well, because we have the opportunity here to create a model that you could see perhaps in other groups as that need arises over time. And, sort of a continuous challenge in Catalyst is keeping the fundamental operational things in flow so that the creativity can flourish on top of it.
Yeah, I think one thing that gets kind of overlooked with Catalyst is like people put a lot of time and a lot of effort into these kinds of things, and people deserve to be paid for it. You know, and maybe it's not people getting paid individually out of a treasury. Maybe it's just having a little bit of cash to be able to help people do their job better, or to help get a bit of exposure for a certain thing, you know, and there are hundreds of different ways that could be used, right? Yeah. One thing I love about this, right, is that this is such a good example of the DAO experiment Catalyst, you know, and I'm you know what I mean by that, right? So one thing that I've used for one of my proposals is a DAO, and this is like the test run for things that I'm implementing. You know, I look at Catalyst and you guys, like everyone who's involved in Catalyst, seems to just think about it all the time. You know, like how can we improve it? Oh, we need to fix this. We need to tweak this little mechanism. We need to figure out how this can be addressed. You know, and the iterative process, even though it happens over like 3-month periods, it's actually really fast. You know, and like we're on fund 8 now. I remember the first fund like November 2 years ago now, and the whole landscape was completely different. And now there's levels of management. There's iterations of those levels, and there's so many mechanisms in place. And this is just the next thing that you guys need to help do a better job, right? And it's not that you're not doing a good job, but it means that you have a bit more mobility with decisions you can make and things that you can do to implement fast, right?
As you scale, new things happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
As you scale, new things happen. As you make changes, the ecosystem changes. As new people come to it, new ideas form, and that has upsides and downsides. And so you have to address those things as you grow. So in this particular case, the Treasury will directly serve the things that are going to work on the things that are going to work on those issues, opportunities. Sometimes there's tools that are needed. For example, like right now, the community advisor group is building a better process for communicating with itself and solving problems, and also archiving those things. And those things involve tools that have costs that right now the community members are largely fronting, because it's, $15 here or $90 there or whatever. And so that's not even someone's time. Those are actual fixed costs and needs that any group would need to function. And that's not really sustainable to have that be the responsibility of it coming out of pockets all the time. Although it is a wonderful contribution. And I think that most of us who are here are giving a lot of ourselves into the efforts that we're working on. It's also, these decisions are going to affect the future of what can be done. And so as we start to make them now, we need to think about the sustainability of the efforts that are being put in, and, not take for granted that, while there's a great gratitude for that those things also don't need to be really considered for the future of both funds and the people who are working within them.
Yeah. And like, I completely understand, right? Where you say someone might just be paying for it for themselves, and at some point it's better to just get the thing paid for and I'll deal with it later, but we really are hitting a point now where that's not good enough anymore, right? Imagine if that person left, right? Imagine if Felix left for whatever reason, the guy's just too busy. Like, what would happen to Catalyst? It would be a different thing, right?
Yeah, we have a search party immediately. I mean, there would be like a a search party effort.
No, I don't mean he disappeared. I mean, he was just too busy. I'd be on a plane. I'd be coming over there with you. But yeah, like, so some people, not just some people, like everyone is giving it 110%. And the people who are involved are heavily emotionally and financially invested in this system, right? And trying to figure out, trying to give the best process for people who want to be involved, people who are trying to build stuff, who just need a bit of funding, right? Yeah, I mean, tooling is one of the or services like SaaS, kind of software as a service type products, are a perfect example of why this kind of thing needs to be in place. Because it's easy to just throw $50 at something on a Wednesday because you need this thing running, right? But at some point, you can't be paying for it out of your own pocket, and that's really important.
This is part of a greater Catalyst conversation too, because this is not specific to this group. It is a broader Catalyst focus that we need to figure out what are some of our solutions for it, so that we have a sustainable environment. That's what we need. That's what we need to really be thinking about. And so it's not a new conversation, but it is one that I think is a prominent conversation right now, and one that as we're thinking about it, my hope for this proposal is that we get extremely successful at it. It's not a large chunk by any means, especially compared to some of the other projects that are happening. But it does give us the opportunity to test the theory and to test the method and to test a framework. And when you do that, and you can do that successfully and demonstrate it, then other people can adopt it and adapt it for their own needs. Yeah. And I think that's a really important part of the growth of our community. Is we don't all need to reinvent the wheel every time we need something. In the beginnings here, if we can create systems, models, processes, things that work, and we can distribute them across other groups who need them, not only is there continuity as much as possible, not continuity that disrupts the creativity and the individual needs of each group, but continuity that says, okay, I recognize that terminology is terminology we all accept in one way, or way of going about things is a way that we have seen work, and we can maybe utilize it similarly. It's a really important thing for a small but rapidly expanding organization to be able to like latch onto some things that work and adapt them over time, and also have a proof that they have been executed successfully and in a trustworthy way.
Yeah, and exactly like you say, like, if this process works well for the CAs and the VCAs and it proves to be a successful model, you can just apply that to something else that needs that kind of functionality. And so it's one of those things that, exactly like you say, it isn't based on just your needs, but it's based on building a system that can scale, because it can be applied to various other mechanisms within the ecosystem.
Yeah. The community advisor group is a good test group for this, because we are in such a state of well, like the whole ecosystem, we're in such a state of growth, but there are like 1,400 proposals right now coming up. And we just improved a lot from the previous fund. So meaning what we are prepared to do, and our learning and our knowledge and our sense of our role in the process is much, has grown much also across this time, but there's a lot to do still. And this is something that really will affect the greater ecosystem if it is labored by issues that can't be resolved quickly. So
CAs and the VCAs are actually kind of gatekeepers in a way. You know, they're like, not in a bad way, and it sounds like a very it sounds like a scary term, right? But I mean more that they act as a filter for the community, which I think you actually said those words earlier. They act like a filter, which is a much better way of putting it. But they so it's really important that this system is actually managed well, right? Because stuff could easily go wrong. Stuff could easily get, well, not wrong, but stuff could easily get led astray and could lead to complications that would just be a whole heap of mess, especially when you're talking about how many proposals, like 1,400.
Yeah.
That's a lot, right? And do you know off the top of your head how many there were last time?
I remember I don't know. I would misquote.
It doesn't matter.
But I can say that there were at least 5 assessments for each of those proposals. and more in some cases, and some cases many more. So that is the goal this time as well. So if you think 1,400, 5 proposals or 5 assessments per 1,400 proposals, that's like a lot, right? So
that's quite a few assessments there.
It's quite a few. So and we're people doing it. So we're people doing the assessments, and
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, there are tools, and we have tools, and we have like filtering tools, and we have some new shiny tools for this one, especially for the evaluation of the assessments themselves. So that's all very positive. And also, it doesn't eliminate, even if it was fantastic and it was a perfect system and nothing could break, you still want to invest in your future of improving. So it's not just a preventative thing for difficult things, but it's also like how can we grow really well, and how can we make sure that people that we have feel like they can feel that same level of the eyeball excitement, right, that you talked about. Maintain that momentum, and that's a lot easier to do if you have the capacity to take care of yourself, meaning of your community that is doing a certain thing. And, we can have like maybe a little bit of a wish list for how we developing community advisors. How do we take someone who did a bunch of good assessments and make them do a bunch of excellent assessments? How do we help them to recruit other people? How do we bring people from industries that are specific to challenges? How do we go recruit those people and bring them in here? And those are things that need to be solved as much as the operational day-to-day stuff. And those are more fun problems to solve usually.
Of course.
People. Yeah. So rather be looking at those. So for people who are considering proposals for voters and people who are considering support, if you have no connection to the community advisor role, and it's something, first of all, you should check it out because it's a great role, and it would be probably very enriching for your life. But outside of that, this is one really that both serves a community that's serving a community and has the potential to scale this particular solution in other areas that would be really helpful to the rest of the community.
It can have real impact, right? That real impact. It's not just you taking a couple of boxes and saying, oh, I'll give that 5 out of 5, right? You're actually helping real projects that need the assistance, that need the funding. And you're helping actually with that mechanism. You're helping take people on that journey and get them the money that they need to be able to solve the problems, which is pretty cool. It's a really cool way to kind of get involved. 100%. Yeah. So how many CAs, how many VCAs are you looking for this round?
All the ones that want to write excellent assessments.
Yeah. Do you have, like, we say there's going to be a minimum of 5 assessments per proposal, isn't there? So we need, give or take, 10,000 assessments to be made in a very short space of time. I'm not trying to overwhelm you.
No.
I'm kind of overwhelmed myself right now.
Some people, so this is a good thing to really point out, is that some people assess this entire week. Some people will do like 80 hours of assessments, or at least a professional week's worth of assessments. Some people come and do 5 to 10. That's fine too. You don't have to come do a crazy amount. Just come and do some, because then you will have had the experience. The other benefit here is, in order to become a veteran community advisor, you need a couple of funds of being a community advisor under your belt. So that's a great argument, because even if now you're like, I don't have time in my life, I have things going on, just doing some will give you both experience with it and the ability to be able to become a veteran community advisor sooner in the future. And that role is in place to make sure that the assessments are to rate the assessments and to make sure the assessments are done in a high quality. And also importantly, to filter out ones that are not
suboptimal.
Suboptimal, low quality. So that's really an argument to be made for it. Since we've been making such a plug for trying the rollout itself, I would also suggest that if you're going to do that, really take the time to prepare yourself by really thoroughly reading the guide, and also by doing one of the Catalyst School workshops, because that will help you to avoid the pitfalls of not doing things correctly and to feel confident and prepared to be able to do them correctly.
Yeah. And I'll have all the links to those guys just down in the box below. So definitely check it out. And I'm actually really glad that you said that, Nadia, because I feel like from just knowing the scope of work that I need to do hundreds of these assessments, right? But I'm glad you said I can just do 5 if I'm super busy. And you can use that as a way of dipping your toes in without having to think, oh, I need to do 20 proposals a day or something like that. And you just paralyze yourself before you even started, right? So that's a really good point.
I think it's a nice thing too. If you're within the community and you have a specific initiative, like if you are, or the other week, this is like a funny side story, but the other week my parents came down to visit and we haven't really talked very much about Catalyst. And so I ended up talking a lot about Catalyst and I was able to explain blockchain through the lens of Catalyst. And it became something that came alive for them and they had an understanding of very differently because what we're doing here in Catalyst is so fun and interesting and it meets the like altruistic desires that so many of us have where we want to be able to contribute to something that's bigger than us. It's important. And, my dad is about to turn 80 and might as well be 60, but he's a young hearted person, but he really understood it. He totally got it. And so as a basic suggestion, like this is a nice way for the people in your life who you're thinking about, who you've been trying to like sort of help them understand why you're so interested in what you're doing. Have people understand this role because it's a context that is helpful for someone who can't find a foothold in the understanding in a different way. This has been my experience explaining it. And the second thing is if you have an initiative, like you're trying to bring a certain kinds of people into Catalyst, use this. It's an easy way for someone to find themselves in, and it's very flexible and scalable for the person who's coming, and it's very gratifying. So all of those things come together in that opportunity, and and it's incentivized so they can make money. That's a nice thing too. So I've also like brought a good number of friends to Catalyst and said, hey, here's something that you can do because you have the space in your life and you get it and you have professional experience that makes sense, or you just really care and you're willing to take the time to prepare yourself to do it.
Yeah. And a bit of pocket money as well.
It's a good, I think a pretty good pay for doing this work. It's enjoyable work and you have the opportunity to really do well from taking this role, and that maybe shouldn't be your primary reason, but
but it's a good reason to justify you putting the time in, right? And that's why I haven't brought it up before, because it isn't primary, but it's just like, thank you. It's a little thank you.
Well, it's deserved. It's deserved. It serves a really important function, and it's not a volunteer role because it's so important.
Yeah, and because there is a lot to do.
There's a lot to do.
There is a lot. Yeah. And you can't like it's nice to say, oh, just do 5 or something, but in terms of the grand scheme of things, it is necessary and it needs to be done, right? Yeah. So I agree.
Your recruitment question is a really important one though, and I do stand by the quality answer. So we need quality assessments. We need quality work. We don't need volume of low quality assessments. We need volume of high quality assessments. So that's maybe an important caveat. But yeah, we really need people to come and do this role because we have a volume of proposals that need to be considered meaningfully.
So back to your proposal, because I know we talked a lot about this role. Back to your proposal, how do you have any ideas like going in on what you might use the Treasury for, or this Treasury mechanism for?
I'm going to say generally, so one of the things we're starting to develop in this group is a system of subcircles that when a problem arises, a group can form with someone who champions the effort to solve that issue. There's a few of those happening right now, and all of them have needs. Some of those right now are just tool and resource needs. Yeah. Some of them are maybe we need someone with certain professional experience who you'd want to enlist. So those things exist. Educational materials and things like that for helping onboarding for CAs. So if we can expand that, the better that we can help people do a good job, the better. And so those are some of the initial thoughts. But ultimately, it is there's categories. So as you look at the proposal, there's categories of funding, and we try to be general, but also a little bit specific as to what those could go towards. And so that will also give a little bit of an outline of what we can anticipate needing. So there's some immediate stuff, but as we're going into the CA sort of season right now, I'm sure that more will surface, and we'll look forward to being able to solve them.
Yeah, and I think that flexibility is quite important as well, right? You don't want to go like this is just for this thing, and then suddenly this other problem turns up, and you're like, oh man, I wish I had preempted it, right? So we could address it. Yeah. Okay. So the proposal you're asking for, let me just check. Sorry, it's $50,000. Okay, which is that's not that bad really. It's not. This is supposed to last for 6 months. Is that right? Perfect.
So loosely, we'll distribute that across the categories, but also if something arises, we're not going to be
emergency cash.
We want to be a little fluid with it. Yeah.
I think one thing that people forget is that that's not a lot of money, right? Sometimes one person could see 50,000 and go, oh my God, it's 50,000. Right. But actually, in terms of man hours, that's not a lot. In terms of any kind of marketing or management or just paying for services, that doesn't go very far. And if you're expecting it to last 6 months, that's like $8,000 a month,
right?
Which again, that's not a lot of money if it's got to last that kind of thing. And it's potentially there for a lot of things as well. It's not there for just one thing. It's not one person's salary, right? And so it really isn't a lot of money. I know some proposals are, some people encourage people who are making proposals to lowball the funds that they need. And that might be a good strategy, but I think that's a bad way to approach Catalyst, because if you need something, then you can't pretend you need less than that just so that you get funded. You need to come out, you need to be honest with yourself and honest with the community. Look, this is important work. We need this kind of cash. So let's just do it. Yeah, let's not pretend. Let's just address it properly. I'll explain why. The proposal will explain to you what we need and why we need it. And then we can move forward and try and figure it out. I think that's something that's really important to remember when you look at some scary numbers or numbers in general, right?
I think all of us have also been in situations where something was like, even when you start with your best guess, sometimes you start out, it's like renovating a house, right? You think it's going to be this and it's actually this. So you don't want to start out below what you need. So at least
because it's going to double, right? It's going to double.
It could. And either you need a plan for that, or, hopefully you set yourself up to succeed in the beginning. It's an important thing, and nobody benefits if you can't implement what you have proposed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this isn't just, this is just in case we have a thing, right? This is because we know that within these groups, there needs to be some kind of funding for flexibility and immobility. I know they sound like the same, but they're different. Trust me, I'm a PT. Anyway, so
you don't want to not have either of those things either, right?
No, we want both of those things to work together.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think that's one basically it.
One thing I would add to that is I think that this amount, it also leaves a good amount left in the challenge. And that's something people sometimes don't consider in proposing. You want to think about actually what the challenge is, what is allotted in the challenge. And if you are taking a significant chunk of it, you should be able to substantiate why that the value is there for that, because there's a lot of great ideas. So I think in our case here, I think it's respectful of the challenge amount, and I think it also leaves space for the other projects there, and considers what is currently there right now. So it should fit there without disrupting the potential for other groups, and that's really ultimately what we would like to have is everyone who brings good ideas to the table, and those good ideas sync with each other, that all of those things move forward, because that's really what we're designing for.
Yeah. And that's one thing about challenges. It's not like you have the only good idea with your proposal, right? And that's one thing that I really like about the challenges that are going on at the minute is the ones that are like development heavy have a lot of cash in them. So they're also kind of grouped in together, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of cash, or there's a lot of funding to go around, and there's a lot of space for people to request like reasonable amounts of funding and still get lots of people funded. And I think that's something that's been missing from previous funds. But now we're really hitting that threshold where, you know, you don't have to pretend how much you need. And there's still a chance for you to only have, say, 10% of the fund or something like that, meaning that lots of projects can all get funded together and they fit into reasonable categories, you know, with still space to fund loads of other projects as well. There was one thing that was a bit of an issue at the end of the last fund where some people were saying about only development stuff should be funded in Catalyst. And personally, I think it's not a very good call to make, because it's not what we're about, right? But also it's very, just having that kind of opinion voice can sometimes be damaging in its own right, because it creates a huge disparity amongst the community. Oh no, that's, and people just go against each other, it's the opposite of what we want as a community.
Right.
And these challenges that we have now, they're not perfect, obviously, but we have good challenges to make sure that we can support all of the different aspects of Cardano, whether it's the progress, whether it's development, whether it's kind of inclusivity, and whether it's community hubs, or whether it's paying for Catalyst itself, which is where this one comes in. But I think we're really hitting that threshold now where we can support all of the groups and all of the different communities within Cardano, which is... I'm trying not to swear because I have a proper potty mouth, right? But it is amazing. It's really good to see. And
it's great.
It's blooming amazing, yeah. But I'm really excited about the kind of next 2 or 3 funds and to see what's going to happen, right? Because
me too.
Pretty soon there are going to be no more proposals because everyone's going to get funded, right? That's how it feels right now. That's how it feels.
Well, that's the great thing also about having like good problems to work on, is you get better solutions. And that's something that it's easy to forget when you're in the midst of having to solve something, or you're in the midst of having to create something. It is work, but it's good work, and it gets you up in the morning. And that feels like, I think, enough of an incentive in itself, but it's nice that there's others too.
It is rewarding, right? It is rewarding. When I talk to some of my clients at the gym, and they're like, "Oh, what have you been up to today?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, well I did this interview and I got this and I had this meeting and I've been trying to write this proposal for this group and trying to get this funded." And they're like, "Well, how do you manage with all that? Aren't you like, how do you deal with it?" And I'm like, to be honest with you, like I'm not tired. I'm just excited all the time. Yeah, I can't wait to see these things be built and be actually put into the real world, you know? Like it's too exciting to kind of get fatigued or like drawn out.
Earlier you said something about thinking about it all the time. And I think I have developed like the Catalyst
brain
stare now, which is like,
how can we get that funded? How can we make that a proposal?
From the minute that I got here, and I'm sure this would be echoed by many, many people in the season. From the minute that I got here, I couldn't stop thinking about the things that we could do. And that is such a great thing to have your headspace full of. It's really great for it's great for your mind. It's great for just relationships and community. It's nice to just be full of how can I make things better? And that's a real gift to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone echoes this same sentiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's really powerful. Nadia, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Because we've got the time here. And if there's something you want to go over specifically, or something that I've forgotten, because I do that, right?
I think we did a pretty thorough job. How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel just good. You know, right? You're just super positive and smiley. And so I just feel super positive and smiley now. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's do Catalyst things, you know? Yeah. Which is a good thing. It's a good thing.
It really is. It's fun. I have high hopes for this proposal, because I'm happy to be the one proposing it, but it is representative of the needs of the community. And it's very representative of a lot of the thinking and the work that has come before us. And I think it's a really important thing in Catalyst that we respect the work that has come before us, and that we continue to help sort of guide the direction of it. So that's what excites me about this proposal. It really is it's a compilation of thinking and of collaboration and of good intentions for the future. So hopefully the voters feel that way, and hopefully the community feels that way about it.
Yeah. Well, look, if there's anything that you need me to do to help kind of promote it or anything, you know how to get hold of me. We'll figure that out as well, because this is one of those things. Catalyst funding Catalyst is like that self-funding mechanism is fundamental for the longevity of this project, right? Otherwise, it all just fizzles out. So yeah, this is a really important thing we need to get sorted.
Great.
Wicked. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been really good fun. You're super nice. I'm going to send Danny out to go and find a house plant. Hopefully she can buy one of those things.
Well, don't do that before the plantains are ready, because that's like...
Oh no, the plantains are ready. I don't know if you can hear. I can hear it.
We better stop then.
Yeah. They're going to be super caramelized and they're going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing.
Not a bad thing either.
Wicked. Well, Nadia, honestly, thank you so much for your time. It really has been so much fun just talking about this stuff. I guess I'm going to catch up with you on Thursday at the Catalyst Circle meeting anyway. But if you need anything in the meantime, feel free to grab hold of me. Otherwise, have a good day.
Right. You too. Great.
Perfect.
Right, guys, that's it for this episode. Big shout outs to Nadia for coming on and talking about a proposal. It's a really important role within Catalyst that doesn't really get as much attention as all the sexy proposals that everyone does. I'd really recommend you take the time to check that out. If you're interested in participating, then you can do so. All you have to do is sign up below. You can check out the form, you can check out the guidelines, and you can get started in Fund 9. Otherwise, guys, that's it for this video. If you like what you're seeing, as always, give us a like, subscribe for more Cardano and Stoic videos every week. Leave any questions or comments you got in the box below, and I will catch up with you in the next one. See you then.